Welcome to Disability Clinic, where we wear our disability pride on our sleeves, literally.
Disability Clinic's logo, a white Swiss cross with a rainbow zigzag representing the colors of the Disability Pride flag.
I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Van. I'm a Vietnamese woman with my long dark hair back in a braid, wearing a blue hoodie and sitting in front of a colorful bookshelf. Today, we're joined by Jame McElroy, the creator of Two Crow Collective, a brand that celebrates an alternative lifestyle, whether you're punk, goth, nerdy, or tatted. Welcome to the show, Jame. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks so much. It's really great to be here. My name's Jame. I'm the owner of Two Crow Collective. I'm wearing a black t-shirt. I'm a white male with a beard and a backwards black hat in front of a podcast station. Yeah, it's really cool to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you could be here. Thanks for just letting me slip into your DMs and agreeing to be on the show. We can kind of start wherever. Like, I like to just open with introducing myself. So I'm Stephanie, Dr. Van, in my professional career. Hello. I'm full-time a doctor. So I'm an interventional pain management specialist. I work at Johns Hopkins. I've been in practice for about 5 years. Once I started really practicing in the real world, being done with training, I just realized so many of the patients that came to see me, they were like way too grateful and surprised when I would like genuinely listen to them and like validate their symptoms. Yes. And it just confused me and then like broke my heart because I was like, this is what it's supposed to be like. You're supposed to feel cared for at the doctor's. So that kind of flicked a switch for me. And then of course the pandemic was happening at the same time as I was like starting my career. And so I tapped into all these platforms and really connected with a lot of people I don't think I would normally connect with. And I realized, the disability advocacy movement needs, we need to pay attention to this, especially in healthcare. And, I want to do a better job for my patients and educate my colleagues. And that's where this YouTube channel, Disability Clinic, was born. And so I like to interview people with disabilities and in and around the advocacy community, just highlighting people's stories. And yeah, that's where we're at. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Doctors who advocate.
My pleasure. I will say it's a huge breath of fresh air to see somebody advocating from the other side of the medical desk, and we don't get that a lot. And like you said, like you were surprised to see how many people are like, oh, you actually care about me? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm one of the few. I got so lucky and then so unlucky very quickly. I had the world's best, in my opinion, GI doctor for my Crohn's disease. When I lived in Maryland, and it was heartbreaking to leave him. He legitimately, that dude fought for me harder than any other person I've ever met. And so it was very, very tough time. I mean, we're already talking about it. So like I was between medicines. He was trying to get me onto a clinical trial, 3rd phase clinical trial for Crohn's. And I literally checked every box. They had me do a month-long poop journal. They made me do a month-long pain journal.
That's the official medical term.
Yeah. Poop journal is the official medical term. And on paper, like perfect candidate, except for my pain. And this is interesting because I went to the doctor. It was through his practice, but it wasn't him. So I went to like the person who was running the clinic or whatever. I had to do all these tests, like heart tests, like I was wired up, all this stuff for days and days and days. And at the end of it, they're like, hey, we just got a call, like you're not accepted. And it was like, what do you mean? And so then my GI left his practice, drove to the clinic, got on the phone in front of me, fought for me. Like,
wow,
what are you talking about? And it comes down to something subjective. My pain wasn't high enough. And I'm like, how is that? Like, because I wrote a 7 instead of an 8 one day or whatever,
right.
Like it was literally
some arbitrary cutoff.
I have high pain tolerance. I'm covered in tattoos. Like
that is so incredibly frustrating. Yeah, and, I'm so glad that you had such a good advocate in the doctor's office. But that I feel like that story really encapsulates so many similar frustrations that people have with just healthcare in general, of like jumping through every hoop, filling out every form, and just getting all of your time essentially wasted to have no value returned to you. Like,
I mean, I did get paid for my time. It wasn't a lot, but I did. It was during COVID. I was at home anyways. It was like, whatever. But immediately, like, he sprung into action. He was like, all right, I'm booking an appointment for next week. Come in. We're going to talk. We're going to figure something out. Because I wasn't on anything.
Can you please just complain more about your pain? That would be great.
Yeah, right? So, like, they said no. He said no to my doctor. Like, they were like, we don't want this guy. I'm like, okay, fine. And it, like, the con was, if it worked, I could have been on this for life for free. So, like, that was like free meds, if it works.
And
Now
the
there's no
opportunity to
way.
get a medicine that actually was helpful.
Yeah, yeah. So then my doctor was like, okay, we're gonna look at other options. He gets me on Stelara. I've been golden ever since. But
Yay.
I moved down here and like I had a doctor who was 2 hours away, and it was like, this doesn't make sense. Like I can't drive 2 hours for a colonoscopy or a
Yeah.
doctor's appointment like this. No. And then I just found another doctor recently, and it's been just like jumping through hurdles, getting my insurance to cover Stelara because I switched doctor. It's like total nightmare fuel. I had it so good.
Yeah,
And
and it's
like,
that's just so frustrating. And it's like actually I'm in Maryland. I don't know if you know that.
you said Johns Hopkins, so I assume.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
actually I grew up in Maryland, so like I'm a Maryland native.
No kidding, me
Yeah.
too.
I grew up in Lutherville is where I grew up. I lived in Glen Burnie for a really long time. If you run into him, his name's Kenelisa Onweme. He's a GI doctor. He's the goat. He's the best. So if you need a colonoscopy,
I will try to remember that. And because I mean, even though my specialty is pain, like I certainly see plenty of patients who have sort of concurrent GI issues. And I just love hearing about a colleague who is highly recommended, goes above and beyond, probably burns himself out, I bet, has some
for sure,
work balance challenges as any good doctor should.
Musician with Crohn's disease. James backstory.
I'm a weird case. Like, I have Crohn's. It's not like that weird, but it's moderate to severe. I was a touring musician. And so my big issue was like, how am I going to be on the road with Crohn's? Like, that's like game over. Like gas station food and crappy bathrooms galore. Like, that was my life. And he was like, I'm going to make sure you get on the road. And he did. And I came back to my next appointment and I was like, I was just on the road for a month straight. And he was like excited, and like no other doctor I've ever met would be hype about that, except for maybe my therapist. But so it's like it felt so good to have someone on my side that was like fighting for me, advocating for me, and also celebrating the wins.
Yeah, and like your wins, like the ones that you considered important, your goals. I love that. I really wish I heard about that more in medicine, where doctors were focused on what does my patient want help with? Like, what are they trying to achieve? And then how can I help them with that? Oh my goodness.
So that's like my backstory. So I have Crohn's disease. I've had it since 2010. I was diagnosed my first semester of college. I thought it was my appendix bursting, and it was not. My colon shut, and I didn't know about it. I mean, I did know about it, but I was in the hospital for a month, and the first thing they said to me in the ER was, you either have Crohn's or cancer. And I was like, oh, okay, sick. That's cool. And then, proceed to get stabbed in the stomach every 4 hours for the next month and not eat for a whole month. And then eventually they were like, yep, you have Crohn's disease. And I had the surgery team and the medical team fighting over me in front of me to pick one or the other. And that was my first real experience of like, this is not okay. Like, but I was so young and naive, I didn't realize it wasn't okay. And I literally picked surgery because I wanted the fastest route back to school. I mean, it was my first semester. Like, I ended my first semester with a 1.1 GPA because I missed so much.
Brutal.
I got to a 3.7 at the end of all of it, but like it took a lot of energy. And I picked surgery. I have the surgery done. And as I'm recovering, the medical doctor, I'll never forget his face. I forgot his name now. He came in and he like scolded me like I was his child. And like,
for what?
For picking surgery. Like he basically called me an idiot with curse words. And I didn't realize that this was like, I knew it wasn't okay, but I didn't know what to do. So I didn't do anything.
Right.
Like,
oh my gosh, that's awful. I'm so sorry that happened.
I mean, it's like that happens all the time.
Apparently. I know.
Like, and this was 2010. This was 15 years ago. Wow, 15 years ago. That's wild.
Problematic attitudes and a failing system.
Like I had the surgery. I'm going back to school, and
it's baffling to me. Stories like this are way too common. And I feel like at the root of it, it's this attitude in healthcare where we know best, right? The doctors are super educated. And if a patient isn't doing what we recommend or what we think is best, then they're automatically in the wrong. They're automatically like, non-compliant, illiterate, or whatever. Just very insulting,
Yeah.
disrespectful things can get thrown at a patient when really it's like, it's our jobs to help people understand their options. We're not there to judge their decisions or like make their decisions for them. And I
Yeah.
just, it boils my blood that, every time someone shares a story like this.
I mean, me too. When I think back on it, I'm like, oh, I would have done so much different, like, because it was inappropriate. It was completely inappropriate, and it's one of those moments where you kind of go tunnel vision because you don't really understand what's happening. You're like, why is this dude's yelling at me right now, and I don't like it. I'm in a hospital bed. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I just had
Yeah.
surgery on my stomach. Like, I already knew the risk. I knew the risk. I was like, there's a 75% chance that I wake up with a colostomy bag, and like, I was like, I don't care. Like, I just want to feel better right
Yeah.
now. And, if I had to go back and do it again, I think I'd still take the surgery, even though I know that I still am at risk for having another surgery. I'm a colonoscopy every year for the rest of my life and go from there.
And that's what you got to do, right? It sounds like you've really informed yourself on like what your options are, and like that's how you manage chronic conditions and disability. It's like you just have to know what you want and learn as much as you can about what's out there,
Yeah.
and really hope for the best, right? Because a lot of this is out of our control. If there's not a doctor close by who's knowledgeable, like some people just have the worst luck when it comes to this, and then most of the time, the system is really just failing people.
It really is.
Trauma Olympics. It's not a competition.
And I see it all the time, in my line of work where I just talk to people about, I mean, it's the same thing, like I don't have a YouTube channel or, a podcast or anything like that, but I do talk to my customers all the time. And the stories, I mean, the stories you hear are like insane. They're insane sometimes. It's crazy how I feel like my story is like a loaded gun sometimes, but like then somebody else tells me their story and I'm like, oh my God, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Like thank God that I have my story, and I don't like playing pain Olympics, and I don't like, everybody's got their own pain and it is
Yeah.
theirs, and
I think
like,
I've said like all suffering is relative,
yes,
right?
correct.
But it's all relevant. Like it's still valid. It still needs to be shared and supported. It's so funny to me how like in the community, there are so many recurring stories. Like you and I, we've heard the same things, the same themes, and yet it's still so difficult to get people outside of the community who don't have this awareness to get them to tap into it, even though people have been kind of like shouting on the mountaintop, if you will.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things about my disability, honestly, is like being in a relationship with someone who has never been to the hospital. My wife's first time being in the hospital besides her birth was the birth of my daughter.
Right.
Like it's not a norm for her. She's like the healthiest person I know. And I'm over here and like trying to explain to her, like, I'm not getting out of bed today. And like, that's not laziness. That's just truth, like that's just how it has to be.
Utensil Theory. James spin on spoon theory.
And like I'm obviously a spoonie, like I believe in spoon theory to an extent. I do think it's different. There it is. No spoons club.
Available on Two Crow Collective.
Hey, I actually made a TikTok video probably 2 years ago now about my version of spoon theory, and I think it's that spoons are more like utensils, and everybody has different spoons, and like the energy can be what that is for the day. So maybe it's not a spoon, maybe it's like a ladle, and you have way more energy, or it's a tiny little plastic spoon that's broken. Like it just there's a third variable here, and it's not just individual bolts of energy. It's like what is the energy that you have to work with,
Right, and how do you carry it? I like that. I like that caveat.
so yeah, but like, and it could be something like, the reference I made was like I had a bowl of Cheerios, and it's like if my goal is to eat this bowl of Cheerios and I have a chopstick, I could go one by one and scoop up Cheerios. I'm still gonna get it done. It's just gonna be way harder,
And
or
take
I
a lot
have
longer,
a
yeah.
ladle and I can scoop all of the Cheerios at once and then eat it, showing that like your utensil, well, your energy is different, and it could be different for the day. Like a ladle might work well for X, Y, and Z, but not A, B, and C. And so like part of learning your disability as a person who's disabled or chronically ill or mentally or dealing with mental health challenges, like, is knowing your energy, what it's good for, and just acting on it in the right ways. And I think that was the hardest lesson for me, is like I would have energy, but I'm not using it properly. because there's days I don't want to get out of bed. There's days I don't want to shower, but vice versa. There's days that I want to shower, not get out of bed, and it's like,
Yeah.
where do I go from here? And I'm a sheer will kind of guy though. Like I'm a doer. Like I force myself to get up and I burn myself out. And so
Burnout sticker available on Two Crow Collective right now.
This is me. This is my life all day.
Literally burning this candle at two ends.
Yeah.
Love this sticker.
Two Crow Collective, the birth of a brand.
That leads us into you talking about you starting your own brand, clothing company.
Yeah.
Venture. Is this kind of experience of chronic illness and disability what inspired that, or were there lots of different things that accumulated?
It's a lot. I mean, like as I said before, like I was a touring musician and I got into screen printing and doing art for being a musician. Like I was doing album artwork, I was doing CD artwork, t-shirts, whatever. And then had to be 2015, 2016, I started doing shirts for bands, like of my friends' bands, and like I was working a 9 to 5, I was coming home, I was printing until 11, and then I'd go to bed, and like there was thousands of shirts a week, and I got so burnt out again, and I hard stopped. I was like, I can't print anymore. Like I did it for a couple friends who like really needed stuff, but I was like, I can't keep doing this. I'm killing myself. And then COVID hit. And I lost my day job and I was bored. I was so bored. I was playing video games all day. I was drinking too much. I started day drinking and it was a really bad. My wife was a elementary school teacher, so she was still working. She's upstairs on her computer teaching kids, and I'm in downstairs.
Class. I'm getting drinking, like flashbacks.
Yeah, drinking White Claws, just playing video games. Like it was bad. And so I was like, I need to be more constructive. I started working out at home. I started designing just whatever came to my head. And I was slowly, I was doing caricatures of my friends. I was drawing their dogs. I was doing all this stuff, just trying to be a better artist. And then eventually I was like, you know what? Like, I want to just draw some stuff for me. And I drew the first design I finished was Sad But Rad, and it was a skull on a snail, and it just says Sad But Rad all over it. And I was like, you know what? Like, what if I just do a bunch of stuff? And I decided, let me just release, 5-10 things. And so there was Sad But Rad. There was a Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. That was a skull with heart eyes. There was You Don't Look Sick, and it's a rose wilted over a hand. Like it was a bunch of like very true and real things to me, not even thinking about my story, not even thinking about why I was making them. I just thought they were cool. I just wanted to do an alternative tattoo-y kind of style brand. It wasn't until maybe 3 months in and I made one TikTok. It was Valentine's Day and I released Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. It was on a blue ringer tee. And I woke up the next morning with $16,000 in my bank account.
Whoa!
It was viral. It was all the single ladies bought it because it was like the perfect anti-love design at that moment. It slowly, I don't know what it was. I guess I learned about spoon theory at that point, and I made the spoon design, and I just did a couple little sidestep things that led me to chronic illness and mental health designs. It wasn't really until maybe a year in that I really shifted my attention to it. I was just doing alternative kind of whatever I feel like doing. And I still do that. If I have a cool design idea, I just put it out, whatever.
Yeah.
Some of my best sellers are just random.
Thank you so much for tuning into this conversation with Jame of Two Crow Collective. If you want to hear more conversations like this, hit that like button and subscribe to Disability Clinic for more entertaining and educational content. You can also join us on Patreon. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and learning. We'll see you next time.